practice. It's going to keep taking constant reflection and constant practice and looking at ourselves and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing, talking to other people. I did not like to talk to other people. I didn't want anybody in my classroom. I don't like other people for the most part. So anytime somebody other than my observer, which is Dr. Edwards at that time, he's like frightening, okay? Because the guy can bench press like 500 pounds and he yelled at people. He would be in there and that would be it. But nobody else would talk. And so, nobody. I ate lunch in my room because I was sick. Didn't have to speak with anybody or anything. And I don't think that I got better, started to improve as a teacher until there were other people that I started to talk to, like Scott and another administrator at Harvard High School, and then other people, and then I met Steve, and so then I started to speak to talk to other people. That's how we're going to improve. That's how this is going to get better. We're going to get better at this. In the back, again, there's another rubric. And that rubric is going to also be on the report cards. And this has to do with a lot of what Scott W. mentioned about how you have the kid who does a lot of, he's a good kid or has a lot of effort. We ended up giving kids, or the kids got grades that were based on, again, non-academic indicators. And we're still going to give kids grades on academic skills or academic habits, such as being on time, being prepared, doing your homework. Okay, you'll still grade the kids on that because you would think that if the kid's on time, does their homework, is prepared for class, then it's likely that they're going to do well. And this is another way to provide information to families, because let's say the kids struggle, they're not doing really well in a particular stream. We might be able to say, like, look, we had 3 homework assignments in the quiz, and your son and daughter didn't do anything. They were absent, or they didn't do their homework, or they didn't come to class with anything to write with. So we can say, here's part of the conversation. Here's some things we can work on that may help here. Yes, more information. Homework's going to be another big place where we're going to have a huge change. Okay? Homework, through all the reading, hopefully, that you did do, that you've read, it isn't really something that is it's an academic habit. Okay? Unless that homework assignment is an assessment, we're not really going to count it. Okay? In terms of, say, giving you a grade. We're not going to have grades that are hyperinflated or hyper-deflated because of the student's capacity to do homework, to follow through on something. Yes, they should do, but if a kid does their homework, it doesn't mean that they're going to end up with an A just because they did it, because you weight homework at 35% of the grade.
So, just to clarify, so homework is an opportunity to practice the skills that you will assess at some point later on.
Or it is an assessment.
Or it could be an assessment.
Right.
But if it's not an assessment, we're going to tally, they did it or didn't do it, under a separate grade, not part of their GPA or whatever.
Right.
So they did it, or it's not an assessment, just practice.
Right.
They did it or didn't do it. Okay.
Yes.
So, and that's separate, but if it's an assessment, then it gets kind of twice. Once for doing the homework and once for whatever skill it was to assess.
Right, but when we say counts, say for that other part, like saying this
The
was,
GPA part.
like that won't have any impact on what the student's grade is. And I didn't talk about how we're going to calculate student grades, and I'm probably not going to do that here right now. But it won't count towards that, at least.
One of the things
A little louder.
One of the things in the blog is talk about feedback, and so we might be giving homework and tons of feedback on that assignment, but they don't really get a grade for the assignment, but it's important giving that feedback because they are.
They're developed.
Right, at least makes a good point about feedback. Like, again, this may slow down our turnaround time getting assignments back, but it's imperative that when students take the time, theoretically, to do something, to give it to us, that we need to do it at least the same as mark down on what they did well and what they didn't do well. Putting an X next to something or a C next to something when it's not really, that's not informative. That just tells somebody, hey, it's right or it's wrong. But if we're trying to push kids like Scott's talking about who want to become the exceeds, then we got to tell them what they have to do. If it's correct, but it's not, on its way to exceeding, and all it's doing is just demonstrating, okay, they've gotten the skill, then we need to, it's incumbent upon us to sit there and say, okay, now that you've got this, here's how I can see you moving this forward. And again, initially that's going to be hard. I get that, because we don't do that right now. We don't typically tell the kid who got it all right, well, here's some other things that you can do to make yourself better. I get it. So, but we have to keep doing that, because if we don't start the year off with that goal in mind, it's never going to happen.
One quick thing. Something to keep in mind, grades as they are, whether they're 1 or but now the grades that they are. it's a communication with a number of different stakeholders. It's communication between the teacher and the student. It's communication between the teacher and the parent, and from teacher to teacher. And then ultimately, for us, between school and community, which is more specifically the college community. You have to realize that many of the people who, the person who's probably going to care most about the grade is going to be a parent. Excuse me, and parents have this way of hearing what they want to hear. Crazy instinct thing that happens once you have children, is that you only hear what you want to hear. And I had a conversation with a lower school parent who heard that her child was doing really well. That's what she heard. Child's a special needs child, she's in the 3rd grade, and she heard her child was doing really well and had made great improvement. Now, that's all true. She probably still reads at a 1st grade level. But to have a conversation with an otherwise intelligent and reasonable person who is a parent, and for them to only hear that she's doing well is for us to have not communicated the facts to this parent, which are essential for her to be able to support her child, to prepare her child to get these skills up. And so if she hasn't had assignments, the child and the parent, they haven't had assignments that are assessments of the child's skill, the child's noted ability, then we have not effectively communicated that to the parent. And so whether it be homework or in-class assignments, whatever it is, we need to communicate to the parent that the child either knows how to do this or doesn't, and can, as we put together these individualized learning plans, here's what you can do in order to improve the child's performance in said area. Because when you give a child an assessment and they do not do well, it is incumbent upon you to explain why they did or didn't. So you have to understand the purpose of an assessment and the assignment of a number. It is to communicate a skill. It's to establish a basic language to communicate a skill. It's tough, and we've been, me and I've been through this for a couple of years. This is the reason why our first year, really lots of conversations. What do you do with effort? You have a kid who comes in, and he's just a worker, man. He puts, hard hat on, he comes and he gives you everything he's got, every single day. And you know he did the homework, and you know he tried, and you know he got most of it wrong. So you want to give something for it, because your heart tells you to. You're not a jerk. You want to give the kid something. That doesn't change what the assessment is. We talk about the other parts, and the affective side, and building a kid up. We talk about that. But when you give this information, it has to be something that we can use. Because the instructor who gets that kid next, or the people who are supporting that child at home, or the advisor who's going to be on the phone and is going to hear the parent cursing you up one side and down the other. Last week you got an A, now we got an F. What happened? Well, it took one test for 50% of the grade, and the whole grade went down. This changes that. This is a fairer way of assessing a child's ability. Their whole grade, the bottom doesn't drop out because it didn't hand in an assignment. And then I'm not on the phone with parents all summer, whatever length of summer we have, explaining, so hold on. See, what happened was, this assignment was worth 50% of the grade is this, and they're saying, but he had all A's going into this. So now he has a C because of one assignment. If we were assessing the skills all along, that could never happen. If you're assessing the skills, that could never happen. Because then you don't wait till the last day to test the skills. The skills have been assessed all along. And everybody knows. So there's no shock and awe when they pick up the report card at the end of the year. Your assessments, your grades have to carry the truth about what's going on with the child. And whether it's a homework assignment, in-class assignment, it has to be skill-based. It's really simple. Math, I think it's 25 skills for the upper school for CFT. For CAP, 25?
Sorry. like
25 skills, right?
5. That's for the middle school.
Middle school, I'm sorry, middle school is 25. Those are the 25. That's what they are. That's enough. If you break down the math, that's enough to teach in a year. If your kids, this is the last thing people talk about teaching to the test. Well, you teach to the test, they're dumbing down. Dude, if you saw a kid who got 5s on those 25 skills, you wouldn't think that they were dumb at all. You wouldn't question anything. You'd see that kid and you'd say, wow, she's really good. She's really good. The same is true for every other subject matter. If you teach these skills and the kids can master those skills, nobody's going to question that child's ability. Are there other things that other people may value? For sure. But if they just got those and exceeded them, you would be lauded as a great teacher. And their parents would be lauded as great parents, and they would be seen as a smart kid, and we would run a great school. So be purposeful in your assessments and in everything that you do, and then the standards that we're talking about become so much clearer. And the communication between you and home, and you and us, and you and everybody else is there. If he's saying to you, he's going to come in. Or Mr. Rudd, you're going to come in, and they're going to ask, but why are you doing this? It might be a good idea. It might be a good idea, it might be a fun thing to do to see if the kids really did take notes, to do such a thing. But just because they took good notes doesn't necessarily translate to that they learned the skills. And if they did learn the skills, then you can do your job, because that's what our job is to do, is teach the skills. Teach the skills, teach the skills, teach the skills. So they learn them, assess that, and then move on.
We're good. Yeah, sure.
By all means.
And I don't want to get all into this now, but I think one of the things that this enables us to do, like you said, know our students, like you said, all the time, individual learning plan, when you pre-assess, when you put it in, that's one way of knowing how your kids are, how they write, how they think, what they can do. Because a lot of times they can do the skills on a lower level of playing field. When we talk about individual learning plans, sometimes it's just the readability of an article that they can't find any idea, but they can find any idea. So in our planning, we just have to do both things.
Right, I mean, when we're talking about boiling down to the skill, we're really talking about boiling down to the skill. Let's say that you want to teach a language arts skill that requires a child to be able to repeat that. Cause and effect. As an instructor, you need to have more than one way of teaching that skill and assessing that skill. Because we want to know the skill, not the strategy that you use to teach it, because the strategy may not be effective with this particular child. So for instance, you give them an article that's pretty dense. Let's just use that as an example. You give them an article that's pretty dense. They're not a good reader. But they can tell you the cause and effect. If you found something that they could read on their reading level, and they can show you that they do know the cause and effect, that's the skill. That's all we wanted to know. We didn't want to know. If you want to test their reading level, test their reading level. And this is where you become skilled as an instructor. As an instructor, you need to know the difference for your own self as an instructor if you're teaching a skill that you're assessing. And or if these ancillary skills or the other components of the skill are somehow overriding the learning of that skill or those set of skills. So if they're not able to read, newsflash, many of our children struggle to read. Newsflash, many of them hate math. Okay? If you were thinking you were getting something different, welcome. That being said, you need to be able to identify in your own assignments if that assignment teaches the skill. And if in teaching that skill, you've provided multiple opportunities or strategies for that child to do that, for the cause and effect, we use cause and effect. It's incumbent upon you, the professional with the big toolbox of skills, to be able to think of multiple ways for this child to express their knowledge of that skill. Not to limit the skill. So if the kids are supposed to count to 10, 10 is the number. Whatever that, if that's what it is, it's what it is. They need to show you that they can count to 10. Now, how they count to 10, I don't even know. But that they can, I care. And too often what we do is we don't know how to make the distinction between how they do it and if they can do it. That's on you. And this is what Peter's talking about. This is where the conversation between all of you comes in. This is where you guys have to talk about different ways to get the same skill taught and learn. Yeah, go here.
Well, that's all right. I guess going off on it, like on the 3s and 4s in schools, you know, if they were reading something on their level, then they would have a chance that they're going to go for because they gave you a good 9.
Right, that actually, just building on what she said, was, we think about kids that have special needs a lot. We think about kids who have special needs a lot, but we need to start thinking about the other end as well, and there needs to be opportunities for kids to earn 4s. And the only way they can, and it's not by getting 100 on a test, so maybe for those kids, we do need to give them something that's above and beyond. It just kind of blows you away, that is beyond proficiency or mastery. But if they never have an opportunity to do it, nobody will ever have an opportunity to earn a 4.
Or create a test where, let's just call
Right,
it
like a higher reading level or something.
Or if you create a test that 100 is given, that the 100 to receive 100 is above. So
Or it is above.
So let's say that, let's just go with numbers again. Let's say that if they receive 25, it would be a 1. If they receive, you get it all the way up. If they receive,
You need to have questions or whatever that are
right,
above.
whatever, in order to get 100, I actually think that if you do have, because I think it's impossible to give a kid a grade above 100, whatever the top number is. I think you get to a point where it just gets real goofy. You just start. If your top score should be exceeded. Your top score should be the top.
The 4.
It should be a 4. You must calibrate what you do so that if you have an assessment, if they're an 80, they're an 80, whatever the percentage is, and so that would be like a 3. But if they're up in the 90s, using numbers, just stick with me for this, then it should be exceeded. It shouldn't have to be they get 100 on what you gave them. However, it's a 2 because that's just not going to work. That's not going to work.
The other thing I wanted to say is that for kids with special needs, I think, and Rich, it was part of the assignment, either when Rich sent it out, that we need to identify the power standards. Those are going to drop dead, do or die. Everybody in this school, no matter what, needs to count to 10 or whatever the standard is.
Right. And so, while we're one of the things that B brought up.
What did I say?
One of the things that says get ready to get to that. But one of the things that I think is most important to take from what B said and what we're saying is that we're developing this as we go. These are conversations, but this is the root. I need you to understand the root behind this. The root behind this is we need to know what a kid knows. We need to be able to communicate that to parent, we need to be able to communicate that to child, communicate that from colleague to colleague. Because when I send someone, or you send someone over to the athletic department, and you say to them, hey man, this kid's having trouble in our class, they didn't know what the hell you're talking about. If they're sitting down, you, and we're saying that they're having academic trouble, we say that they have A's. How could they be having trouble? They have A's. Well, he's a good kid. But it doesn't mean anything relative to what we're saying. Yes?
Getting back to the example that you use in terms of the functional facts, when individualizing the readability of the text, if we're dropping the reading level and we're looking for a skill that's specific to college fact, is student A, if this is student A and student B, is student A going to receive a 3 because they can identify the cause and effect on the lower reading level that's not particularly where they're supposed to be for that grade?
You have two standards. You have the
No, but we're
reading
just
standard
talking-
and you have the cause and effect standard.
Right, so I'm just speaking in terms of specifically just cause and effect.
So then constant fact.
And you'll get their 3 for their
Right,
lower
but if it's a
income.
below level reading level, then they wouldn't get a 3. They might get.
For
Well,
cause and
they're-
effect.